Yeah, so this was a target trial emulation where we used a large longitudinal healthcare claims database to ask the question of whether we see different clinical outcomes in patients with COPD who receive azithromycin versus roflumilast. Just a couple of points to clarify. So, azithromycin can be given for short-term courses, an antibiotic that we often give for people who are having exacerbations. But the study question here was really focused on preventing future exacerbations. So there's a role for azithromycin for patients to take it uh, daily or 3 times weekly in a maintenance fashion to prevent future exacerbations. Roflumilast is also approved to prevent exacerbations. So you have these two oral drugs that patients will get started on, but not a lot of data comparing them head to head. So we thought this would be a really good opportunity to use a large longitudinal healthcare database and run that comparison. We pre-registered our protocol at the Open Science framework, and we used the Optum database. The kind of headline finding was that patients with COPD who were receiving azithromycin had slightly improved clinical outcomes compared to roflumilast when looking specifically at the endpoint of moderate or severe COPD exacerbations. Yeah, so it's not a randomized controlled trial. And I think studies like this will never and should never supplant randomized controlled trials, but rather I think they can help complement the findings from randomized controlled trials. One of the big issues with real world studies like this one using observational data is that there can be confounding with respect to who gets a given treatment. And so we made lots of efforts to minimize confounding by using what's called propensity score matching across a range of covariates. We also ran lots of sensitivity analyses, including one with high dimensional propensity score matching, to try to be convinced that we were limiting confounding to the extent possible. But with any study like this, there's always the potential for residual confounding. Um, Fortunately, in this case, there is actually an ongoing randomized controlled trial called Reliance that is happening right now. It's actually, they've finished recruiting. The results aren't yet available. And so this study kind of helps clinicians, including me. I see patients in COPD clinic. So it kind of helps us think about what might be better for patients who need one of these therapies while we're awaiting the results of the Reliance trial. But I think that trial will be very informative, and we'll hopefully have findings soon. We're all eagerly awaiting the results of the Reliance trial. I think um, this this study that we conducted, I think will kind of help answer questions that aren't being answered in Reliance, and ultimately, at the end of the day, my goal as a researcher when studying these types of clinical questions is to give patients and other physicians good data with which to make treatment choices. I think in COPD, we don't get a lot of new therapies that hit the market. And so I think really drilling down into the kind of optimal treatment algorithms with therapies that we have is quite important. Yeah, so there are a number of limitations. We talked a little bit about confounding, which I always think of as kind of the big limitation for these types of studies. Short follow-up time, we only looked at patients while they were on therapy, and a lot of patients will discontinue their therapy after some period of time. And ideally, we would like to follow patients for a year or 2 years while on therapy, but in our case, patients were discontinuing much earlier than that. So I think future studies would ideally be able to follow patients for longer. I should also note that we only looked at effectiveness. We were only looking at the outcome of moderate or severe COPD exacerbation. We didn't look at the safety profiles of these drugs. So azithromycin has well-known side effects, including um, long QT and can be associated with hearing issues. Um, Long QT is a cardiac arrhythmia. And then roflumilast has other side effects, most notably gastrointestinal side effects. And so we didn't analyze those because those are not well captured in the claims database that we use. Those are better captured in kind of self-reported or studies of self-reported symptoms, which so we don't have any clue about what side effects patients may have been experiencing. We did not study that, so I think that's another important caveat to these findings. So we have this claims database, and it's very reflective of patients treated in the real world because these are the patients who are getting this therapy in clinical practice. So one of the great advantages of doing this type of research is that we are getting kind of all comers with COPD. We apply a few inclusion and exclusion criteria, but not like what the clinical trials apply. By contrast, randomized controlled trials, including Reliant, will set inclusion exclusion criteria to test the drug, sometimes in populations that are most likely to benefit. In the case of Reliance, they're looking at how the drug is performs compared to the other in patients who are getting kind of guideline concordant care. But in real world clinical practice, we don't always see guideline concordant care. So the populations are quite different. Specifically, the patient population that we studied, many of the patients were not on maintenance inhaler therapy, not on triple maintenance inhaler therapy where they're getting an inhaled corticosteroid, a long-acting beta agonist, and a long-acting muscarinic antagonist. Some of the patients had prior asthma diagnoses. Those patients sometimes get excluded from trials for COPD. So it's a much broader population than the Reliance trial. Now, one of the things that we did was we performed our primary analysis that was pre-specified with this broader group of patients with COPD, but then we also did a secondary analysis in a population that was meant to more closely mirror the trial population in Reliance. So we applied as many of the inclusion and exclusion criteria as we could. So it was a much smaller patient population. And again, azithromycin performed slightly better than roflumilast. Could we perfectly replicate the trial based on its inclusion and exclusion criteria? No, there are some things that we just don't have in our database that they have, the trial investigators have when conducting the RCT. So it's not a perfect solution to the problem of different patient populations, but I think it's a really great question because, as I said earlier, I think these types of real world studies are great for complementing data from randomized controlled trials. And one of the reasons why they can be such a good complement is that you're looking at a broader patient population. We did a lot of subgroup analyses that we pre-specified, and broadly speaking, we saw very consistent effects across the subgroups. There weren't huge differences between subgroups in terms of how patients may have responded to azithromycin or roflumilast. You asked about eosinophils, and before we started this study, azithromycin and roflumilast were really the only options for patients who were continuing to exacerbate on maximal inhaler therapy. There are now a couple of biologics that are approved for patients who have elevated eosinophils. And so that subgroup analysis becomes especially important because we want to make sure that azithromycin and roflumilast are that we're studying it in the population of patients who have lower eosinophils who wouldn't be eligible for biologic therapy. And we also saw kind of consistent findings with our primary analysis.